Hello everyone, I believe that the stream has just started. I hope you can see my welcome screen. Just let me check if everything is working properly. I believe that everything should be all right. So welcome everyone. This is another part of our Hubleto Dev Academy, a big weekly session about working with the open source CRM and ERP system Hubleto. Welcome everyone. Just let me check our agenda today. As of course, as usually, this session will be recorded, so you can check it out again if you missed something or if you connect a little bit later. As you can see, we are streaming on the YouTube, so the recording will be on the YouTube as well. Feel free to write something to our chat. I will be checking the chat regularly. As I am today's host and moderator, my name is Marcel. You have probably already heard about me because I am quite common on these sessions. So the main flow of communication is writing questions and posts to the live chat. So I will be checking it regularly. Feel free to write anything. So we are moving forward, and I would like to welcome everyone officially at the Hubleto Dev Academy lesson number 6. Today we'll be talking about business apps, and IpInfoTest app will be presented by my co-hosts. So welcome everyone. And so in general, the agenda will be a quick recap, and then most of the time we'll be talking our experts and their inputs. Today will be presented not me, but also by Eric and Misha. You have already heard about them from previous sessions, so they are pretty well versed in the Hubleto. And of course, at the end of the session, we'll have a Q&A session, and we'll be discussing what to do next. So pretty standard stuff. We have a lot of to talk to today, so I will try to be as brief as possible. And regarding the quick recap, I have 2 data storages for you that are able to every users. Our video archive, which you can find at our wai-blue channel, where we have all the recordings from previous sessions and also some little bit of snippets, a little bit of everything regarding Hubleto and how to install it, how to use it, how to work with back office and similar stuff like that. And the other source I would like to point out is our developer's guide. When you can check the web page mentioned below. There's our tutorials, snippets of source codes from each lesson. So everything that you would like to need and take a look at. So pretty a lot of stuff is going there, and we are constantly updating. So lots of interesting stuff to do here. So I really recommend to check out the developer.hubleto.eu, as this is a side of our developers guide. Okay, moving forward, I am talking to my co-speaker, so let's engage. I believe that Michal will be the one that will be running this discussion. So Michal, it is now your turn to speak.
Yes, thank you very much, Marcel, for introducing us. So wait, let me share my screen now.
Okay. I will be stopping the presentation in the minute.
You should be able to see my screen now. Can you confirm?
Yes.
Great.
Confirmed.
All right, so let's just jump into the 6th lesson of the Hubleto Dev Academy webinars. Today we will be continuing with building another Hubleto business app with the name IpInfo. But before I tell you what the app will be about, let's recap the previous lessons, what we learned, and what we will also need for today's lesson. So first of all, from the lesson 3, if you remember, we learned how to create a new Hubleto app we learned how to use the how to define models, what different columns Hubleto offers, and also how to work with relations. If you remember, we had this car rental app with cars which belonged to customers, and then we also had these car rental histories, I think. Right, so this was quite straightforward, as you also see on the pictures. Then in the fourth lesson, we learned more from these front-end basics. So beginning with the description API, which you see on the left image. And then also, sorry, on the bottom right image is description API. On the left image is the controllers, the definition of a controller. And then on the top right image, you can see a definition or like the snippet of a React component, which you also learned in the fourth lesson. And then in the last session, this should be quite fresh in your memory. We created a brand new app for Hubleto, the car rental app, right? And these were basically the steps which we needed to create the app. So first of all, you need to download the project, download the necessary files and libraries from our website, and then install it, right? So this should be quite easy. And then the app creation process is also easy because we offer this Hubleto CLI, and you can create a scaffolding for your application with just what are these 4 commands and then some model definition. Once again, very straightforward process to get you up and running to continue developing this app. Right. So for the day, we will be once again developing a new Hubleto app, but today there is a small twist to this plot. We'll be connecting it with a public API to show you also that Hubleto is able to communicate with external sources, external endpoints. So first of all, what you need is this Hubleto app scaffolding with this model view controller structure. And then we will be using IpInfoTest API, which I will explain later what it is. Then we will create the backend for it, for also saving our favorite APIs or anything you can imagine, anything under this. And then also we will show you how to super quickly, super easily create user-friendly UI with Hubleto components. So this is what the app will look like. There will be like an input box for an IP address and a button. And when you click this button, Hubleto will call this API, which I talked about before, and it will just preview like some details about the IP address, and it will allow you to save the IP address to your favorites. Right. So, and this is what the what the API looks like. So on the left, you can see there are some more general information about the IP. So, for example, right, if the API request was successful, then what kind of IP address that is. Then we also see what country the IP belongs to. In our case, it's an Austrian IP. We can also see the exact city and the geographical parameters of that city, and then also some other interesting things. For example, the borders of the country which the IP is located in, and then also the flag or some organization which the IP belongs to. So this is quite interesting stuff, and we will learn today how to incorporate this into Hubleto, how to make use of it. And then last but not least, the contents of today's lesson are already available at the Hubleto Developers Guide, as you can see in the picture. So when you're in doubt, when you are developing this app on your own or any other app, you can always go to the Developers Guide, look up today's lesson and see exactly in detail what we did. Right, and you can also see the link down below. All right, so after the theory is over, which was significantly shorter today, we can continue with actually coding the thing. Right, Eric?
Right, so I'll just jump straight into the code. Let me share my screen. Right. So I hope that's visible.
Yeah, I believe that if you are able to make things a little bit bigger, it will not hurt anyone. Great, thanks.
Yeah. Right. So let me start. So the goal today is to build a small custom Hubleto app called IpInfo that's going to essentially let the user enter an IP address. It will load data from a public API, and then it will show the result on the same page. After that, the user will have the option to save that IP address into a custom model, custom backend model, and it will let the user then browse the saved IP addresses in a standardized Hubleto table and form UI. So I have already used the Hubleto CLI to generate the IpInfoTest scaffold. So what we have generated right now is the model, the corresponding model view controller files, so we can skip the repetitive setup that we repeat each lesson. So the scaffold will be our starting point. So first, what you want to do when you generated a scaffold app structure is what I usually do is open the manifest and customize these a couple of these metadata keys. Essentially, what I like to do is separate the root URL slug using dashes. It's just a preference thing. To me, it looks cleaner. After that, I like to customize the icon. So this is the icon that will be shown, for example, on the left sidebar. These are the standardized font awesome icons. So what I'm going to use for this app will be the network icon. And then after that, I usually edit the highlight. It replaces the generic CLI description with a sentence that can explain the purpose of the app. So simple custom app for, let's call it for IP lookup and management. All right, sounds good. What I do usually after that is quickly hop into loader, and since we renamed the URL slug, what I do after that is edit the router. So what I'm going to do is also separate it by dashes. The settings under that, and under that, the favorite IPs, and then also the settings. Right. So the first expression maps exactly the IpInfoTest to our custom home controller. The second route handles settings, which we won't be using today, but it's generally pretty useful if you want your app to have custom settings. And the second route in here handles the special word add, which I haven't added yet. It's essentially this. And what it does is one second. In here. Also, just to mention, all of the code, which I'm copy pasting quickly in here just to save time from my notes, will be available and is currently available in our Hubleto developer guide. So you can just as I am doing, quickly copy and paste the code already and get yourselves up and running with the app. In here, we convert the word add to a record ID with the value of -1. And what this means, essentially, -1 in Hubleto is the convention for a new record. So this signals that a new record should be added. After that, let's move down to install app. In here, we don't need to actually change anything, but I would like to highlight the upgrade schema. Get model asks Hubleto's service container for the configured favorite IP model, right? So we don't have to construct it manually. And calling upgrade schema on that model makes Hubleto inspect its migration history and execute migrations that are still pending. So migrations that are still yet to be done. This line of code connects the application installation with the database table. So the migration itself is responsible for the actual SQL. After this is configured, we can actually move onto the main controller. So let me go into that. Here we have the home controller. Now this one might be a bit complex, but stay with me. I'll explain each and every method as I go on. And if you feel lost at any point in time, please feel free to look into our developer's guide where everything is explained in detail. So what I'll be doing is rewriting the prepare view method, making it a slightly bit more complex. So let me deconstruct the code I just pasted in. Let me walk you guys through this. So just to highlight the view params, here I begin by defining every value in the Twig template, which the Twig template may read. The IP comes from the get query, which we do not have yet, but I'll get to this later. And it is trimmed right after it is received. Result, success, and error, they start in empty states for now. We are essentially initializing them in here. Then in this section, this branch represents the save button, right? So I require both a post request and the explicit action save to be true. After that, we read the submitted IP and perform the lookup again on the server. So since we do not necessarily trust the result fields sent by the browser, the server obtains a fresh validated API response before inserting anything into the database. In here, essentially, if the lookup does not have the value OK, so as Michal showed, there is a sort of a response message we receive from the API. Again, none of this is Hubleto native, right? We're working with a external API, so this might all seem complicated, but if you consult that documentation, it's pretty simple and rudimentary stuff. In here, in the else if branch, we essentially, this is the normal get lookup submitted by the first form. So it fetches and displays information without saving it. And finally, in here, we have the set view, which selects the Twig template that receives all of these completed view params array, right? And this method therefore coordinates the two requests. We also coordinate the get preview and IP and post saves it. So let me continue with adding the methods. In here, I would like to add the lookup IP method. This is a helper method that acts as sort of a gate in front of the network requests. Let's say we have an invalid address. So this invalid address returns immediately with the same OK and error structure. that is expected by our prepare view. So curl is never opened for a bad input. This is sort of a way of sanitation. Only a value that will be accepted by isValidIp reaches the fetch IP info, which are the next methods I'll be showing you guys. But quickly before that, we actually need a way to save a method after the user decides that it likes the IP address. So for that, we have a save FavoriteIp method. Essentially, first in here we obtain the model that owns the IpInfoTest FavoriteIp table, right? So that's in here. The create, then in here we map our normalized API keys. So that's in here directly to the model columns. So these are the columns that we will specify in the model. We also have an optionality for it to be null. So just in case the API request returns one of these fields as null, we don't actually crash the app or cause any issues. We simply insert a value of nothing into the database. Next will be a very simple validator. IsValidIp, which I've already mentioned. So in here, I would like to highlight the PHP's native filter validate IP, which essentially checks if the IP address is IPv4 or IPv6 format, because filter var actually returns either the validated value or false, right? So this is a strict comparison that converts the behavior into a Boolean that's expected by lookup IP, right? Next, after that, we do the actual API request. So to do that, we have the method of fetch IP info. In here, it consists of multiple blocks, which I'll go through one by one. First, I would like to highlight the initialization, sort of. So here we construct the request URL using a raw URL encode, right? So the API of IPHOS, which Michal already talked about. Curl opt return transfer tells the curl to return the body as a PHP string instead of just printing it straight up onto the page. We also set in here a 5-second connection timeout. This is just best practice. It limits how long we wait for it to establish a connection. And then we have a 10-second global timeout, which prevents the request from hanging indefinitely. This is done in case the service is slow, for example, or cannot be reached. Here, let me highlight this section. So this is the actual network operation. I capture in here, we capture 3 different independent results before closing the handle. We capture the response body, a transport level curl error, and the HTTP status code. So we actually keep all of these 3 responses just to differentiate between different types of errors in case we have any issues. So we know if it's an issue on our side or, for example, an issue on the provider side. So in here, I would like to highlight the first 2 error conditions, which are these. Basically, the first condition catches a request that produces no usable body. So we prefer enclose detailed message when one exists, right? But in second condition, this one catches a valid HTTP exchange whose status is 400 or higher, right? So both actually return the same OK equals false, right? That is the OK I was talking about a minute ago. So in these cases, it is not actually OK, and should throw an error. Next, I would like to highlight the parts where we actually decode the JSON. And essentially in here, a successful HTTP response, it is not automatically valid application data yet. So we decode the JSON that we receive from the API into an array of sorts and verify the type, right? The API also includes its own success flag in here, which we check in here, which can report an invalid or unsupported address. So let's say the user inputs an IP address that's 50 characters long. Obviously, it is not correct. So it will be success of false. And we, in the same way, set OK to false. Next, I would like to highlight time zone, connection, and then what we actually return. So the external response is nested, right? As Michal was showing, the JSON is nested a bunch of layers deep, showing multiple data right under each other. So we flatten those structures into simple strings and return only the fields our view and model understand, right? At the same time, we actually store the raw data, and in here we preserve the complete formatted response that we received from the API. And that's essentially it. That's our controller. From here on out, the app completely depends on our stable internal shape, right? So we're not working with the raw JSON format anymore, and we can move on forward. So next, what I usually do, after my controller is done, I move on to the home Twig. So let's go into views. And in here, we have the home. So let me just quickly replace that. In here, we don't do anything complicated. It may look complicated, but it's not actually. Let me highlight the form for the get, which is in here, method get. In here, the first form performs the preview operation, right? Because it uses get. And the IP address becomes the IP query parameter that I was talking about in the prepare view. So let me quickly show you that. In here, this is the IP that we actually receive from this get form. The input value comes back from the view params as .ip, so the address remains visible after submission. And we also default to a blank state, which keeps the initial empty page safe, right? So if you don't default to a blank sort of value, you may cause errors. In case either the API doesn't return anything or something was inputted that before. After that, we have a couple of success and error conditions. Essentially, these two blocks render a mutually independent feedback from the controller, right? So in here, we do not decide why an operation succeeded or failed. We simply check if for the success, right? For the state of the success parameter. And we display a proper visual alert. So that will be alert success or alert danger if we have an error. Next, I would like to highlight this if condition in here. Essentially, the result card exists only after a successful lookup. So if the lookup fails, we have nothing to show. That's why it's an if we have a result and the result is not empty condition in here. The second form that's underneath, it uses post and sends action equals save action with value save, allowing the same controller route to distinguish so saving from, let's say, previewing above. So there would be, like, for example, the button that lets us save the looked up IP address. After this is done, I usually move on to defining the custom model. So we move on to actually saving the favorite IP address. So let me quickly hop into favorite IP model. And in here we will do a couple of things. First, since we are also storing date time, we make sure it's imported in here, and it is. Next, after that, we define the table name. So for us, that will be IP underscore InfoTest favorite IPs, right? Exactly. Let me quickly just grab the entire section. Yeah. So just to quickly explain what happens here, table is the physical SQL table name. Record manager class tells the model which eloquent record manager executes reads and writes. Right, the lookup properties, all of these three, they describe how this model behaves when another component references it. So, for example, the lookup SQL value uses the IP as the human readable value, right? And the lookup URL detail, for example. What this does is, first of all, it defines that after we saved a favorite IP, we can actually double click and we can open the record judging by the ID of the record. So that's the URL detail. After that, we move on to relations. So since we won't be doing any relations in this app, we don't need to actually configure the owner or the manager for our purposes. So let me just comment out this entire section. For future reference, I would recommend configuring relations, or for complex apps, that's definitely the case. Next, we move on to describe columns. So let me just quickly grab the entire method, replace it, and essentially in here what happens, as we described multiple times before, the array merge of parent described columns. In here we preserve the Hubleto's standard column structure, so especially the numeric primary key, for example. And in here, each array key becomes both the model field and the generated database column. So we have these columns in here. That's the IP address. We have the country, region, city, time zone, organization. Then we store the raw data in here, which is of the type of text, just in case the raw data is way too large and exceeds the limitations of varchar. And then we store the date of query that just for debugging or logging purposes when we made the actual query. Then we move on to describe table. We won't be doing much in here, but doing one important thing, and then it is disabling the add button. As you can see by default, there is the option to add a record. which is usually used or is very useful. But for our purposes, we won't be doing this and actually doing the exact opposite and disabling it. So that would be description to permissions of can create, and we will be setting that to false. And what this does is basically disables the ability to simply click above a standard table and create a record. Since all we need is the record to be created from the API lookup. Next, what we'll be doing is looking at the record manager. In here, this one will be actually simplified a lot. So what you can do, since we don't use any relations, we can get rid of this and the entire prepared query for our purposes, and we simply keep the naming convention of the table the same as we previously stated. So that would be IpInfoTest favorite IPs. Right. The entire record management is intentionally thin. That's by purpose. So we are only thing in here is the table mapping. The inherited record manager already provides the create, read, update, delete, or the filtering and pagination behavior. We do not have the owner or manager columns, so I remove them from the scaffold. So that would be the owner and manager relation, and instead, only thing in here it would be the table mapping. After this step, what we can do is create the migration, and to do that, if you guys remember, we can use the command of php hubleto create migration. In here, we defined the directory of our app and the model name. So the migration has been created. Let's double check. Right, it exists, and in here, and just like that, this is the SQL that will create our database table. In here, you can modify it further or do any sort of changes you may want. But for our purposes, it's simple enough. Only thing I'll be doing is renaming the class. So it's in line with the name of our migration. That will be favorite IP underscore 00001. And we can move on from this. If you want to learn more about how migrations are done in Hubleto, you can preview our developer guide, where we have a extensive documentation regarding migrations. So after a migration is done, what I usually do is double check all of our remaining files. So that would be the favorite IPs controller, for example. In here, the thing we need to check, we can also clean it up a little bit. We check if the set view points to a correct Twig file with favorite IPs, which yes, the naming is correct. After that, what we do, we wire the React table from the Twig. So we move into favorite IPs, and in here I'll just quickly replace it with our custom component. In here, as you can see, we have a custom Hubleto tag, which would be converted by Hubleto back into its name, which will register next. So that would be IpInfoTest table favorite IPs. I've also gone through these prefixes, which are essentially type declarations. They convert for example, the selected record ID to a number, or JSON, which serializes the column searches and filters as structured values, so they have structure. Next, we'll actually need to register this component. To do that, we hop into our loader, and as you can see, it's already done for us. So all of this you can find in our documentation, but as you can see, we import the file from components, and then we register it as IpInfoTest table favorite IPs, which, as you can see, matches. That's the table favorite IPs component. Next, let's look at the component. So let's look at the component, make sure everything is in order in the table. In here, what I usually double check is the model. Right, if it points to the correct model and namespace. Next, I usually double check the set record form URL, which method is in here, and as you can see, the URL is not entirely correct, because this is not all we'll be using, since we have a sort of a stat page. We will be configuring a IP-info-test, and which is the base of our app. This is the URL slug, which we configured at the beginning. And after that, we have the favorite IPs, which will then show our table component. Oh, almost made a mistake there. After that, what we can do is take a look at the form. Let me just double check if everything is in order. Looks like it is. So we take a look at our form. In here, we don't need to do much. We can, for example, rename the title. So favorite IP, we can space it out, which will be the title of the tab within the form. After that, we'll moving down. As you can see, there is the get record form URL, which is also wrong. It would be IP-info-test/favorite IPs. So once again, the base URL slug of our app. Moving down, this all looks to be correct. So after this is done, our app is essentially ready to be installed. So we can quickly do that. To do that, we use PHP Hubleto app install, then our app, and I usually use after that the word force, just to force the installation in case you've already tried to install it or installed it at the beginning using the scaffold commands. This essentially reinstalls the app with its current latest state. Then we run the migration with PHP Hubleto migrate, and then the model name. The migration has run correctly, and then what we do is rebuild the front end. So to do that, npm build. So after this is done, all we can do is cross our fingers and double check our custom app. And as you can see, this is the view of the app. So in here, you can paste a IP address. I have a sample IP address that I've saved in here. I'll paste it in here, click lookup, And as you can see, the API call goes through. And in here, we can see the IP address, and we can see it being located in the country of China, in the region Beijing, with its time zone and organization that belongs, that this IP address belongs to. After that, we can save it to favorites. As you can see, here is the success message, IP information saved to favorites. And after that, we can check favorite IPs, which, as you can see by the URL, takes us to a sort of subpage, IpInfoTest/favorite IPs. And in here, you can see the table we configured with the record of the saved IP address, which we can then double click and see details that it consists of, as well as the raw data, which we stored. This is what the API returned, and the date it was queried at. So that's essentially the app. So you might be wondering what will be the use case for the app, for an app like this. So let's say, for example, you would like to quickly within Hubleto search through an IP address that's trying to connect to your service, and you see it looks weird, or you don't recognize the IP address. You can quickly search up its location, and for example, instead of this being favorite IPs, this could be your IP blacklist, right? So you can blacklist IP addresses from locations you do not recognize. But overall, the purpose of this lesson was to show you guys how you can actually connect and customize Hubleto to work with external services, external APIs, and then get those requests, format them to work with Hubleto, and then store them in our backend, and then show them on our custom UI. So that would be it from me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Eric. That was mighty coding. A lot of snippets of codes. Hopefully everyone was did not have any trouble getting that. Hopefully it was easy to understand. Okay, so now let's return to my sort of part of presentation once more. Just give me a second. I need to prepare it. Okay, we are getting. Oh no, that's not the thing that I wanted to share. I have some sort of small technical difficulties. Do not. Okay, should we? Okay, we are in the presentation once more. Okay, thankfully the crisis was averted. Okay, so a little bit of closing remarks already, because this presentation was already quite long. A lot of things that we have discussed. So we are now moving through a Q&A session. So if you have some question, feel free to ask it in our live chat. Let me check it if there's something interesting. Nothing right now. So write your questions to the chat, and I will read them to our moderators and co-hosts. And if anything interesting pop out, feel free to write out. If you did not catch anything, or you will have some other idea on how to do it, feel free to share it with us. In the meantime, I would like to point out that you can follow us on our Reddit channel, or also you can feel free to share our GitHub and maybe some write interesting commit if you want, or some idea for upgrade the new version or something like that. Also, do not forget to check our LinkedIn regularly, where we are posting news regarding the Academy or other similar topics regarding Hubleto, our CRM and ERP software. And in the meantime, I would like to point out also that the next lesson, which will be in 2 weeks' time, so on Wednesday, 8th of August, we will be having a discussion about Hubleto React UI basics, so another interesting topic. So the starting time will be same as usual. So 2:30 p.m. UTC +2. So see you in 2 weeks' time, and same place on the YouTube channel. So let me check if you have some questions. And nothing really right now, but okay, I'm just giving you guys 1 more minute and they'll be closing this discussion. Okay, there is something. Is there any particular reason why you prefer using PHP? Well, this is a good question for our programmers. Not sure if Eric or Misho would like to ask this. Maybe Eric give us a little bit info about, or I believe Misho is ready to answer this. Misho, feel free to give us info about PHP.
I'm actually not. I just wanted to give us a small remark on this because we were actually chatting about this topic, whether PHP is actually dead or not. But we are actually the opinion that PHP is alive and well. Yes, so it's being updated and it's an up-to-date and modern language as of now. So I don't see a reason why not to use it. But maybe Eric, you have also some reason or some argument for PHP.
Well, I would say that the language of PHP is very well standardized and widely used across the web development space. I don't remember the exact numbers, but most of the current web pages actually run on PHP in one way or another. And PHP is a natural choice for us because the Hubleto backend and the application framework are built around PHP, right? It gives us direct access to Hubleto's controllers, models, migrations, authentication, and, for example, the database layer without introducing another backend technology, right? So PHP may not necessarily be the best language for every project, but for our use case and for what was shown and will be shown, it lets us focus on the application logic and integrate with the existing platform consistently. So we don't only use PHP, as you saw, we also use Twig, React, TypeScript for the front end. So PHP is specifically handling the server-side responsibilities in our case, and it's been working great. And if PHP doesn't die in the next few years, you can actually argue its longevity from future standpoint. But for our use case, PHP works perfectly just fine.
Yeah, certainly. Also, there are other big frameworks like WordPress. WordPress is literally powering half the web. So PHP is certainly not lacking its power here.
Yeah. Thanks for the input from you guys. I hope Robhan has liked the answers to your questions. Okay, let me check once more if there is another question or remark about today's session. Okay, I believe that it is slowly but surely a time for closing remarks. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Misha, for your contribution today. It was a lot of coding, a lot of stuff. I hope everyone liked that. So thank you for your time today. And it's time to say goodbye. So see you in 2 weeks' time. Hello, everyone.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
See you. Bye, everyone.